going to be looking at some coastal landforms in this tour right here. There's lots to look at, and we're not going to be able to see all the different types of coastal landforms, but we can see some pretty neat features via Google Earth. We're going to start with the erosional or degradational landforms, and we're going to start off going to Oregon. Oregon coast is, of course, known for its natural beauty and all the cool cliffs and things like that, and that's exactly what we're going to look at. Here's a broad coastal area. You can see very distinct headlands as well as a little bay, and old headlands that have been eroded away sort of projecting out here a little bit. And those are exactly the sorts of things that show up in coastal landforms. Sea cliffs are, of course, the most typical of the features. A sea cliff is formed around headlands where you have lots of mass wasting and weathering activity taking place up above, and then erosion down below leads to steepened slopes and cliffs being formed. The sea stack is sort of the iconic feature found in coastal areas. It's a leftover chunk of a headland. Everything else has been eroded away, and you're left with these great big masses of rock. If we go down to coastal California, we can see other landscapes that are associated especially with these degradational and also emergent landscapes. Here we're going to look at marine terraces. You may remember that marine terraces formed when a coastal area is tectonically moving upwards, and so there's time for the ocean to erode away a terrace, and you can see one here, and you can see a fresher one here, and then presumably there's another one out here. And as that landscape moves out, you end up with this sort of terraced look to the landscape. Maybe you can't see it really well in Google Earth, but fairly well. If we move down the coastline a little bit, we can start to see some of the more depositional features. A tombolo is usually a piece of rock like a sea stack, and it has aggradational material pulled to it as a result of longshore drift. And so we see this rock, and then this probably disappears during high tide, but at low tide there's a bridge of sand that goes out to it. So since we're moving on to depositional stuff, let's go to the eastern seaboard of the United States. But actually, we're going to go to the eastern seaboard of Canada. We're going to go up to the Gaspé Peninsula, where first we'll see a really dramatic example of another kind of sea stack, which includes, in this situation, an arch as well. Might not be able to see the arch really well with this particular image, but there is an arch that's formed, and another great tombolo feature that goes out to the Gaspé rock. From here, we will go back down to the United States, and we'll go to Massachusetts, where we're going to take a look at some depositional materials and the sand spits that are created by deposition. And one of the classic spits is the spit that's found in Cape Cod around Provincetown. Of course, all of Cape Cod is a massive spit, but here you can see small little ancillary spits coming off of it caused by that longshore drift of material. The Outer Banks of North Carolina are a great example of offshore bars formed by the deposition of material over long periods of time, creating great sand bars like we see on Cape Lookout, which also has spit activity on it as well. We can see this stuff again as we go down to Florida and we take a look at areas here that are created first by deposition, but now are being built up by the growth of coral reefs. So coral reefs are another coastal feature, and the various keys of the Florida Keys are a combination of depositional material along with the coral that has grown around it. Coral creates all sorts of different kinds of interesting landforms. And here we get to see coral reefs growing off of the Keys, Key Largo, in a little bit more detail. Flying over to Hawaii, we'll see some other examples of coral, but what we're going to look at now is a particular kind called a coral atoll. And a coral atoll is this very interesting shaped feature that is caused when coral grows around an old volcanic area. That volcanic area eventually is eroded by natural coastal processes and also by rain and mass wasting and things like that. But the coral keeps growing. So you end up getting this sort of ring shape landscape surrounding an old area like this. There are lots of examples of these. One of the classic examples of a coral atoll with little remnants of the deposition material left over from the degradation of the volcanic area is Midway Island. So these are a couple of interesting coastal features, lots more to see like this, but this is at least a taste of the things that we can see on Google Earth.